country's Arab population was not yet aroused politically. The man who succeeded in awakening the Arabs of Palestine was the Mufti of Jerusalem, Haj Amin al-Husseini. He did so not by voicing nationalist slogans, but rather through fomenting a religious conflict. He addressed the masses clearly, calling for a holy war. His battle cry was simple and easily comprehensible: down with the infidels. In 1928, the Mufti created a crisis around the Western Wall in Jerusalem. For hundreds of years, Jews had poured out their hearts in prayer at this site, a remnant of the ancient walls of the Temple, the holiest prayer site of all to the Jewish people. On Fridays, Arab peasants who were coming to prayer at the Temple Mount heard sermons about the Zionist enemy who allegedly sought to burn down the al-Aqsa Mosque and build the Jewish temple upon its ruins.
It was after the midday prayers when heard in the distance a sort of roar like a football crowd. And the crowds pressed through the narrow streets of the old city and came out where I was, at the Damascus gate, singing, shouting with a sort of rhythmic fury that I was going to get to know pretty well in subsequent years of riot and rebellion in Palestine. I remember seeing a police officer, Kingsley Heath, on his horse, charge the crowd to try and disperse it and make it go up towards Herod's Gate. I thought his horse would come down on the asphalt. He was charging the crowd to force it back, as British police would do on their mounted police would do in London. Another policeman whom I got to know very well later, Tessiman, who used to be later on with me in Tulkarm, came in with blood all down the side of his uniform, and he told me the killing had started in the Jewish quarters.
These were the 1929 riots. In 6 days, the Arabs, led by the Mufti, attacked more than 20 Jewish settlements throughout the country. Reports of murder, pillage and destruction arrived one after the other, shocking the small Jewish population. Rioting reached its peak in Hebron, in which 66 Jews were murdered, old and young, men, women and children.
My sister and I hid inside a bookcase, a sort of niche within the wall with glass doors. And that's where we hid. I don't remember how long we remained there, but afterwards I remember that one of the rioters opened the doors to the niche and took us out of there.
ירדנו מתוך ארון הספרים שהיה מוגבע במקצת, והמתפרע הזה...
We came out of the bookcase, which was somewhat raised, and this rioter addressed my sister in Arabic. Bring us the money or we'll kill you. But then I remember that the house was full of rioters, and evidently there was nothing left to give them. Then I remember the sword in that man's hand, and apparently at this stage one of my father's Arab friends who had just entered the house intervened and chased the rioter away. He took us out of the house to a neighbor's home.
לקחנו לבית אחד השכנים.
لما اجوا بدهم يطلعوا قالوا هانا بيت ابو زينة في.
When the crowd got there, they said, "This is Abu Zaina's house, in which all the Jews are," and they wanted to kill the Jewish doctor.
انا قبل ما يصلوا هذا الجمهور لاني عم الي مات.
Before the crowd got there, I saw my uncle and asked him, "Do you have a weapon?" He answered, "Yes." "What do you have?" "A sword." I said, "Take it out. If any of them approach the steps, strike them with the sword." The crowd came and I asked them, "Where are you going? Shame on you. Whoever moves one step, I'll chop off his head." I cursed them and so on. In the end, they respected and feared us. My uncle, who stood there with sword in hand, they fled. And we saved all 40 to 50 people, and no one said a word.
התחלנו לראות את גודל האסון. ראינו מן החלונות שמבית אחי מורידים אלונקות, מורידים...
We began to realize the great extent of the catastrophe. We saw through the windows that from my brother's house people were carrying out stretchers, corpses, people.
דפים עלים מספרים.
I saw with my own eyes feathers from pillows and quilts flying in every direction, torn pages of books. They weren't content with murder and butchery, but even took out their anger on possessions. They destroyed, ripped and tore up everything they could lay their hands on.